All right. So sorry for that. We are back. Take four. So we are trying to say this is the path that you're taking. So specifically, the entire workflow is going to like sort of a robot kind of is going to go to this folder inside this directory. Inaenda kuingia kwa that folder. It is going to perform everything via inside that folder. Another folder that it has to concern with, it has to make sure that it doesn't go outside. Even this one are not important. This one is the only one that is important. This one is not important because, of course, it's a workflow. It is not supposed to repeat itself. We have a problem. Okay, this untracked, of course. We have not done a committed jobs that are supposed to run. These are jobs that are supposed to run. So the kind of job that you are running here is called deploy. You're trying to deploy. That is the job that you're trying to do. So forget about that, but hold on. This recording, trying to put it in the correct way. If you have any question, kindly ask. Mhm. Hold on, I'm working on this recording. Any question? You guys don't have any questions? Msiniogope bana, siwezi kula mtu. Don't eat people. Oh, I'm trying to save other recordings zenye nilikuwa nazo. But anyway, as I fix that, I can be explaining on this other screen what I've been doing. So we have already done Git version control. We are at CI/CD Git pipeline of kila kitu. Then we are going to see exactly. I'm not going to show you how to. I'm just going to show you how render works and how Vercel works. Then I think we can be able to close the session there. Today we are not going to have an afternoon session because I want you guys to be engaged in assignments on the LMS and the group work that I'm going to give. Very important. Anyway, I think I'm ready. Where is this? Okay, there you are. So let me explain this once again. We have already said this and this. So it is not rocket science. Actually, it's not rocket science for you to be able to understand this thing. So this is just about triggering an event that is being triggered. So what happens is the event is the push event when you push something via the main branch. So this one is going to run only when the changes are being made specifically in the server. That's why we are giving that path. It is going to run only when the servers have been changed when you change something inside the server folder. You see? So the workflow itself, when you change it also, when you change something inside here, the workflow, of course, this one is going to run, but most of the time you don't put this one. Like I said, this one is not that important. That one is not that important. So why is this significant? Because I think that's the question that can run around. Why is this significant? So we are trying to prevent unnecessary running of this workflow. We don't want every time you are pushing to GitHub, this kind of file to run every time. No, 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 no. We are trying to prevent that. So we are trying to prevent unnecessary workflow runs when unrelated files like front-end code is being modified. Remember, we normally have like limited like 2,000 hours of runtime for workflows. That is on the free tier. And you might be surprised what 2,000 can run because this thing is, I don't know if it is on the enterprise or the free version. Now, this one is I'm trying to explain this in batches or sections. Now, we have this kind of section here. You have this kind of section here. So what it does here, we are trying to define a job. Like I told you, we have a job called deploy. So this job is going to run on a Ubuntu virtual machine. Yes, we have an Ubuntu virtual machine. So it's called Ubuntu latest. We don't, I think since I started, we don't have Windows virtual machine to run our workflow. We don't, that's J Honor. Most of the time, we usually use Ubuntu virtual machine. So it is good for consistency in terms of deployment processes. So, like I said, the usefulness of this thing is that we are going to ensure consistency in the deployment process. Number two, Ubuntu is a common CI/CD environment which supports most deployment tools. It supports most deployment tools, if not all, like more than 90%. That's why we are using Ubuntu latest. We have not said that we don't have others. We have others, but you have to know that a lot of software, like close to even 95% and above of softwares in the world, behind the scene, Linux is what is running. Of course, when you go to Windows or Microsoft, you're going to find a lot of Linux running. In fact, Windows is being built on top of Linux servers. So Linux is there. Even iOS. Android itself, actually, Android is the closest thing to Linux because it is Android operating system or the mobiles that you're using, you guys, the operating system is Android, but the kernel is Linux kernel. That's why Samsung has their own customization of the operating system for Android. Xiaomi, they have their own. Tecno, they have their own. You see? Same Android operating system, but different customization. Same thing you can find. We have Ubuntu, we have Kali Linux, we have Red Hat. We have so many kind of distribution for Linux operating system because it is customizable. Anyway, beside the point. The third thing that we can say is that this kind of step that you're taking here. So these are the steps, like the process that you want to say, start from here. You cannot start from here, start from here. So first things first, we want to clone. So this one is we are trying to say clone the repository into the virtual machine. Which kind of virtual machine? Ubuntu latest. So we are trying to say clone the entire project into that. You see, then allow. So this one is going to allow the workflow to access the latest code. So that checkout is going to run using this kind of extension that is found on part of the GitHub action libraries that we have. So it is important because, like, we are assuming that the CI/CD pipeline will not have access to your code prior. So you need to give it access if it doesn't have. That's why we are doing this. Now, what follows, you can say, is setting up Node.js. So setting up Node.js, it takes a lot, but you need to understand the steps. So remember, the name doesn't matter. The name is just something that you're declaring. When this step gets to, you understand what exactly happens in this step. So we are trying to set up Node version 18. That is the common and the stable version that we normally use for Node. We don't use 20 or 16. 18 is the common and the usual one. So, but you can change this one to put what your project has, because as you can see here, we have something about legacy peer dependencies because React 19 was not matching the Node version that we are using. So in that cascade, you might need to change the node version that you're using. Of course, you need the cache npm dependencies to to speed up the future runs. That's why you're saying you're doing the cache, you're using npm. But for me, my opinion is I would prefer to using pnpm. But the problem is pnpm doesn't always work in GitHub Action. That is the fear that I have. So that's what we're talking about. Then you're saying um, the cache dependency path, you have set it up and everything. So this is just going to make sure that you have the correct version for Node.js and you're going to speed up. But for speeding up, for me, if I was asked, I can be able to change this one and allow the usage of PNPM because or ban works better. Now, installing of dependencies. So first of all, the steps that going to say. So you're going to run the job. So run cd into that. Then after that, you say npm ci. So when you say npm ci, so npm ci is just like npm install, except npm ci works on the environment, virtual environment of ci/cd. Then you run the test. So cd that, then run the test. Then you have this logical or. This one is logical or. For those who don't understand. So logical or is going to run that. And what this or true means is going to prevent a failed test from stopping the deployment. So you're going to say npm test, but you just say npm state and leave it at that. It is going to stop at there. If the test fail, it is going to stop at there. But we don't want this test to stop. We want every test to go on and go to the next to deploy so that we can be able to find a log report of everything that has happened in that workflow. So that's what you're saying, or, so npm test or true. So the or true, the logic or true is going to ensure the workflow continues if the test fails. That's the significance of that. So, but this one depends on your needs. If you want it to stop, you can just remove that true or true so that it can be able to stop. But most importantly, running this npm test, we are going to make sure that we execute that on the backend for test. If you have written any test cases, if not, but of course it's going to generate them. So it's going to help us catch any issues early by running this test before deployment, because deployment is what follows. That is what follows, deploying to render. So have this in mind. Have this in mind. Remember, for me, I understand this. Of course, the cal command, you guys understand the cal command. So this one is the command line tool to send post request to any API or something. So this one is going to send that. So we are going to use secrets. So these secrets, you're going to put them in GitHub in that repository. You're going to put them in that repository. Then you're going to use these variable names. So for, of course, the API key. So this one is just to make sure that the authentication token for render is being used well, to make sure that the correct person is accessing that. Remember, render is free, but not entirely free, because you're going to reach some service threshold that you're supposed to pay for. Then you have to have the unique ID for your render service to exactly know what services that you're running. So that is all about. Remember, this is just sending an API key to trigger deploy hook. So Carl, you send that one, something like that, then it's going to trigger that hook. Hook is just a hook to hook something on. Now, we have to verify that everything works well. So echo, you understand that this one is bash, so echo. You're simply printing a message confirming that deployment request was sent. So this is what we're trying to do here. This is what we're trying to do. Then you give a user, kindly go to this link and monitor everything that is happening. So you're in here, you're going to find the debug report. You're going to find a debug report that is going to state all the issues by confirming the workflow, like, is it working effectively and correctly or what? So, like this workflow, what you have to know is that it is step by step achieving. What I said here, npm install, we normally use npm install, right? But what is npm ci? So npm ci, it is clean installation. When you want to do clean installation, you do npm ci. If you just want to do npm installation, just do npm I. It's going to just do any kind of installation. So this kind of explanation, as you can see, you have clean install here. So clean installation. So this kind of commands they've been explained here, right here, how they work, everything. So ladies and gentlemen, using this file, anytime you're making any change here and doing a commit and then push, it is going to deploy it directly. But it seems that we have an issue here. Let me just fix that. It's not supposed to have any issue. Don't know why. No, this one, it has only issue when it is here, but it doesn't have any issue when it goes to the production. So let us go to render and see what happens as it continues to figure out what is wrong. Okay, let me stop there. Any question? Please, 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 please. Do we have any question? Can we have a glimpse of the UI of the code? Yeah, yeah, we are going to do that. Please explain the GitHub workflow and action again, like that I've already explained. Yeah, let me do that. I didn't see the charts. Okay, this one is trying to fix anyway. As it is trying to fix, what am I doing? CD client npm run dev, and then cd server. So let me duplicate this one so they can say cd server npm run dev. Oh, this video is done. This is video number 3. Video number 3. Run dev. Okay, let us see if it is working. But I'm very sure that we have so many bugs. I'm very sure we have so many bugs here. We are just here to find out. Because it's not perfect. I told you. Because I don't have time for these games, don't have time for these games. What I'm going to do is just because it's never perfect. I don't have time to debug everything because it is not me who did the coding. It actually did a lot of repetitions. Anyway, as it continues finding out where the issue is, I was to show you something to do with the render. Did a couple of push back then. I don't know exactly which account am I using. So as you can see, I told you we have GitLab, and Bitbucket. Let us use Google. I'm not so sure which one, GitHub or Google. I don't know because I have two. But anyway, I'm going to use either. This one is doing a debug. Let me see if that is the account. If it is not, it is GitHub. But they are all render is configured for DevOps, so not to worry. Did I have any projects? don't think so. I had. Anyway, now for you to be able to deploy any backend project, you need to use web services. Web services is for backend, while static is for frontend. Understand that. So we have cron jobs, we have Postgres, we have key value, private services, background workers. For me, I've used Postgres before and cron jobs, as well as web service and static. But web service and static, I've used that a couple of times. Let me skip this. Actually, I don't have any project. This is the first time I'm spinning this. Anyway, so you want to deploy, just come and choose web service that is for backend. Then you link it to the provider. So you link it to the provider. So that is GitHub rather. This thing is still debugging. Anyway, we are here. So configure, give permission. Let us just give permission to all the repositories. Let it load. I don't want to say this. So you're going to link it with the GitHub. So this is it. So I don't want to view. Let us just click on it. So when you link it directly, you're going to create that workflow. So let me just leave everything as it is. Start command is normally npm run dev. Build command is npm. You just have to put this npm install. Root directory is optional, but let us just give it. It is home, then server. Yeah, so it is going to navigate to server, then it's going to do, yeah, it is node language. So like I said, it's free. For starter, let us not focus on this and choose that one. For environment, this is where you put your environment variables if you have. So when you just write that, deploy. So it's going to check everything and deploy. So it's going to do that. Then the logs, here are the logs. Here are the logs. But my focus is not here. That's the first time deployment. This is the first time deployment. As you can see, it is following its own workflow. It has its own workflow. I've not pushed the workflow that I have. So build successful, it is now deploying. It has built successfully, it is now deploying. So if the build successful, which means my code base is okay. Now if the deploying fails, it means my configuration on render has failed. And there you go. And there you go. Now we have some issues here. The issues that I have is that I didn't configure and put the variable for MongoDB. That is something that I left out purposely to show you the difference. The build worked because my code base worked well, but the deployment failed because I didn't add an environment variable. So what kind of environment variable can I have here? So I can just come here and go to .env, copy that, and put it there. Here I can be able to put, like, not exactly, this one is for MongoDB local. I can come and put for MongoDB Atlas here. I come and put GWT and everything. So let me just go back. Not there. Let me go to where? Logs. Where I was doing monitoring. So everything worked well except for this one. But this one, it just means that I didn't have or add any environment variables. But this deployment worked very well. That is deploying on render connection here. So if you want to connect on outbound on everything, you can do that. If you want to deploy the latest commit, you can choose. So I want to work with the latest commit. You can choose the latest commit. It can work with the latest commit instead of manual deployment. So latest commit, it is going to pick from the workflow. When you do workflow, it's going to do that. Pop, and it's done. So you're going to find everything here. Any question up to that point? Let me please just ask any question. I'm still waiting for this thing to bring out the best of it. But my concern is not deploying this, like to see the interface or anything. No, no, no. That's not my concern at all. My concern is just to show you how to deploy on backend because you're going to use render. Render works well anytime. Vercel is now the easiest. Actually, you can deploy on Vercel directly from your computer, your terminal. Any questions? You guys don't have any questions? So consider this one successful, only that I don't want to go to the procedure of adding like the variables like for MongoDB to open MongoDB Atlas. I have so many things there that are private. Anyway, adding this, after adding this, then save, rebuild, and deploy, it is going to clear every error that you're seeing here. It's going to clear everything. So this is just an error because you have not added, you see, and defined and everything. That's the only error that we are having there. We have not added our environment variables. That's why the connection can't be established. But everything else works perfectly and correctly. No, we don't know why this issue is persisting. And I thought that that was the issue actually. Keeps apologizing. Umesema nyinyi hamna swali. 2 hours. Don't have any questions. In fact, just to show you or prove to you that the workflow that we have just written is exactly what has happened here, just follow through. Let me see all logs, maximize here. Just follow all the logs. Where is it? Minimize. The setting up, the setting up of this render. Let me just walk you through one last time. First of all, we have already explained how it works. This one is already on point. When we make changes inside the server, only, nothing else. Or make a change inside this one, but this one is rarely. Um, because when you make changes here, what are you pushing? This one is not of service to the production. This is just a pipeline. Then you put a job. You say, I want it to run on this virtual machine. After that, I want you to clone. After cloning, I need to set up something to do with the node that is supposed to be used. I need a clean installation of dependencies. I need you to run the test. If the test fails, kindly just go on regardless. Then after that, if the test fail or not, just go on and deploy. So how do you deploy? You need two things, the service ID and the API key for render. Those two things are going to help you. After that, run this test to make sure that the hook is there, has been established. Then they verify the deployment is successful. Only that. Only that. But there's something that is missing here. It's actually here it is. Run. This is the run that we are trying to deploy. We can say npm run, something like this. But actually, we've already established it here, so we don't need to write npm run or something. Let me see if this error is gone. Resolve. My concern is not how this thing is going to run. My concern is